UBS CEO Oswald Grubel resigning from the Swiss bank in the wake of a $2.3 billion rogue trading scandal. But what does this move really change for a bank in crisis mode? For more, I'm joined by Ronn Torossian, CEO of crisis PR firm 5W Public Relations. So you say that Grubel was right to resign. Why?
He had to resign. I think that this is such a large situation that somebody has to take the fall in order for them to begin to try to recover. Now, whether they ultimately, how much damage is done is yet to be seen, but the CEO, the buck has to stop with him. When you're talking about, in the wake of Madoff, in the wake of all of the lack of trust in institutions, to be allowed to get away with this sort of thing, the buck has to stop at the top.
But this guy, frankly, hadn't even been around that long. I mean, the board maybe needs to take some heat here as well. Do you think that we'll see changes there? What do they need to do to help confidence?
He was brought in, ironically, to solve the crisis which is going on. So he was brought in, supposedly, to help the problems move forth. When you talk about a single trader having this kind of autonomy, having a lack of control, having a lack of oversight, perhaps the whole system needs to go, but certainly the boss needs to go. Now, again, does one think that with a company that large, the CEO necessarily knows what every employee is doing? Of course not. Nobody can expect at any corporation that a boss knows everything an employee is doing. But ultimately, the lack of oversight, perhaps the whole board needs to go, perhaps everybody needs to go, and there will be a lot of damage done to the UBS brand, as there should be. But the boss has to take the fall, The
UBS brand has taken a beating over the last few years. I mean, this is not the first scandal that they've had to deal with. What does that mean for employees there in terms of maybe a brain drain? What does it mean for recruiting? I mean, how do they deal with all those issues? Because that's what makes a bank, or these relationships.
You know, when you give your money somewhere, it's a very personal relationship. It's a very personal feel. And you need to know that your money is safe. You need to know that it's a trusted brand. Reputation, when reputation gets attacked, it's not just about an individual, this trader. It's about the whole institution. And yes, UBS has had scandal after scandal after scandal, and now is discussing more layoffs. And it has a toll on recruiting. It has a toll on stock price. It has a toll on competition. It is something which is very serious. And yes, the brand absolutely has taken a lot of hits and will take more. But the resignation of this CEO allows them to start to talk about other things, to begin on the road for recovery that much sooner.
So one of the names that we're hearing about in the road to recovery is Sergio Armati, named interim CEO. He's also one of the candidates to take over this position permanently. What kind of time frame does the board need to be dealing with when they're thinking about getting somebody in there right away?
Look, crisis is about immediacy, because the fact that Reuters is doing this story today, in 6 months you won't be looking at UBS exactly the same way that you are today. You'll be on to the other issue of the day. Crisis demands an immediate response. Crisis PR, crisis management, crisis communications is all about the here and now. And they need to now think about, how do we alleviate the public enough that they go away, that they stop looking at us, and we can start to heal some of the damage which is done. Those are necessary steps.
What are those steps?
The steps are, number one, putting a new management team in place, which now we're starting to see, putting much clearer controls in place so that these type of rogue traders and other scandals which have happened cannot happen again without some kind of oversight, and clear communication about what they are going to do, not just to solve the crisis, but to move forth. Crisis communications is all about assuring the public, assuring your public, whether it's employers, whether it's investors, that this crisis, that this issue is no longer facing you. And UBS needs to do a very good job of communicating clearly to make sure that this issue is not at the forefront of everybody's tongue.
Real quick, a letter grade on how they've done so far.
Look, it's an F, because in the wake of Madoff, in the wake of stock scandal, in the wake of all this lack of trust, somebody got billions of dollars as a rogue trader. Period. F. Can they start to recover? Yes, and I think that this CEO's resignation is a start of that recovery.
All right, Ronn Torossian, 5W PR, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Jen Rogers, and this is Reuters.